This video is sponsored by Squarespace. You can make your own beautiful website or online store with this all-in-one platform. Do you ever sit down to sketch something, but it just feels so difficult to draw for some reason? It's like everything is coming out really awkward and stiff. Nothing is coming out right, and you sort of feel blocked. Over the many years of drawing, I have learned that this is actually caused by not being warmed up. I realized just how important warming up is for me. It can make a world of a difference from how your sketches look and how you feel when you're drawing. And I'm specifically talking about working in your sketchbook, or even if you're sitting down to do an illustration, you have to start from scratch. My sketches can go from looking wonky and being quite difficult to do, and by the end of a sketchbook session, I've sort of found my groove, and it's way easier to draw everything, especially without having to look at any references. It's sort of like if you're an athlete and you're about to do a workout, you're about to do something physical, you have to stretch first, you have to warm up. When you play an instrument, you have to warm up. You also have to warm up when you're drawing. And the thing about this mindset, it's made it so much easier for me to accept my bad drawings in my sketchbook, or the ones that I feel bad about, because, not everyone's art is going to look bad to everybody. Artists always perceive their art worse than it actually is, but this first sketch here was the first thing I did in the day. I wasn't looking at any references. I just wanted to draw a witch, and I was like, you know what? It's probably not going to turn out that well, so I'm just going to have fun with the materials and not put too much stress on myself, and just have fun with these wax pastels, because I was really craving using my Caran d'Ache pastels because they're super fun. And I tried to not let it get to me that it wasn't turning out well, because I knew I wasn't warmed up, and I'll be able to draw a lot better by the end of this sketchbook session. And I even covered up a bunch of it with paint because I just didn't want to deal with looking at it, and I was like, you know what, it might make the page look more interesting if I cover it up with a bunch of stuff. Another thing about not being warmed up, it can sort of feel like artist block, sort of like a false artist block, because if you actually keep drawing, you'll loosen up and you will realize, oh, I just was a little rusty, I wasn't fully warmed up. But it's a less severe version of artist block. It can kind of mask itself, because artist block is a real thing. You're probably burnt out if you really just can't get over that first slump when you've just started drawing for the day. There's definitely a difference between not being warmed up and artist block, but it can sort of feel like it. And this mindset has really allowed me to give myself some more room for error when drawing. So I wanted to share some of the ways that I get warmed up and how I approach this concept, because it has really helped me not feel too pressured when I'm sketching, and not panic when I can't get stuff to turn out the way I want them to right off the bat. It usually takes me 10 to 15 minutes to feel fully warmed up, and usually I notice I'm in the groove, it's so much easier to draw things, everything's going well. But those first few sketches are a little awkward and a little wonky, kind of like this page that we're starting off with. I purposely made it very messy, and I didn't go into too much detail on things. I just want to draw some witches. I just want to get a witchy vibe on the sketchbook. So that's what I did. And then later on, I put a little bit more energy into what I was drawing and thought it out a bit better. And I think this initial page of the exploration, getting out all the shaking off the cobwebs kind of page, allowed me to do some better drawings later on. But I'm still not totally happy with everything, but there is one drawing at the end that I really like, because I put a lot of time into it. Anyways, for me, I find that there's two ways that I like to warm up, and it sort of just depends on my mood, which method I choose. The first one is without using references. This involves grabbing some kind of supply that I'm excited to use, like these wax pastels that I'm using in this video. And it could be anything else though, like a cool pen, a marker, anything that you just want to scribble on paper with, that you enjoy making marks with. Pick something that you like to draw. Today I decided to do witches because Halloween's coming up, and I love fall and Halloween. It's just one of my favorite seasons. It is my favorite season. So I'm it's time to draw some witches, but I didn't put too much pressure on myself. The reason why I wanted to use these wax pastels is because they're just so fun to put on the paper. They're so smooth, and laying down the color comes really quickly and easily. So those are perfect for warming up. And just start loosely drawing from your mind. As you go, it gets easier and easier. It might be oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. What am I drawing? and I decided to cover up some areas that made me kind of mad because I just like didn't want to look at them anymore. Sometimes I'm like a big believer of like don't cover your sketches, but other times I'm a big believer in do whatever gives your mind peace. So if there's something that just is so like ugly to you, or that you just like want to cover to draw something else on top, you can feel free to do that and don't feel guilty about it. But just like loosely draw from your head, think about something that brings you joy, that you are good at drawing, that you know how to draw. Today, I didn't necessarily do that because I don't draw people that much anymore, so whenever I try to draw them, I get a little bit rusty. So I purposely let all of these sketches be very like gestural and like quick, and try not to define like details too much, and just like very loosely block in the shapes and get like the essence of, you know, witches in random poses. It's nothing like amazing. I'm just kind of like shaking out the cobwebs here. I feel like that page was very necessary for me to warm up. That's sort of like a warm-up page. That's what it looks like. Then I decided to look at a reference of someone sitting, draw a witch sitting, and I didn't like stress too much about the details here, but I think it looks a lot better than the other ones in terms of like the anatomy. It's definitely not perfect, but it helps so much to look at a photo of like what you're actually trying to draw, especially with anatomy of animals and people. Looking at a couple different photos of them like sitting and seeing how the body works can make something like click in your mind, and it's just like so much easier to base your drawing off of that. Now for a break to thank this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. You most definitely know what Squarespace is by now, but if you don't, they are an online website builder. You can build any kind of website you want. I mainly use mine for my portfolio. I really like using their portfolios and galleries feature because all you have to do is upload all of your images. You can rearrange them in whatever order you want, adjust the margins and the spacing, and the automatic image scaling will take care of displaying them all beside each other nicely. Squarespace Blueprint is an AI website builder where you can answer a little questionnaire and decide what blocks you want to put on your template, and you're basically building your own customized template, which is pretty cool. And after that, you can add all of your own information and customize it further with fonts and colors and make it suit your aesthetic. If you'd like to check out Squarespace, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your website, go to squarespace.com/JelArts to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And that kind of brings me to the second method, which is when you use references. And this can sort of be like if you're doing studies, you're trying to replicate a photo that you see to learn how to draw it better, to improve your hand-eye coordination and your ability to draw from observation. And what I like to do is go to Pinterest or just like Google Images, pull up some photos of your favorite animal or some figure poses that you want to figure out how to draw. I just said figure twice. And just try drawing them. Use whatever supply you want. It's a sketchbook. You can do whatever you want. And you can stay faithful to the reference to make it more of a study, or you can use them as a starting off point for your own idea. So that's kind of what I did here. I took a photo of someone sitting and I just like, I can't remember if I drew the clothes. I think I did the same clothes, but then I like stylized it and just like kind of made it my own and made her wearing a witch hat. And I decided to try to use markers, but like it's sort of hit or miss when I color something purely in markers and I use like pastels for the skin tone, which I should have done the opposite. I should have used markers for the skin tone and pastels for the clothes, just because of the texture of skin is a lot smoother. It just ended up looking odd, my media choice here, but it was a lot easier to draw from the reference, like when it comes to actually drawing poses and anatomy. And it can be difficult at first because if you're just starting with like references, it's probably the first thing you've drawn all day and you're like, I don't really know how long do I look at the photo and how long do I look at what I'm drawing. I find it's a good like rule of thumb to like study what you're looking at just as much as you're drawing it, if not more, so that you can really like break down the shapes. And as you get used to looking at the references and drawing from them, going back and forth between looking and drawing, it will get easier and easier to sketch, and it'll sort of get the ball rolling for being warmed up. I think for me, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to feel fully warmed up, and I like very loosely based it off of the reference photo, but a lot of the time when I draw animals, I am looking at photos of animals as I draw them, because if you've never drawn something before, you're going to need to look at a photo of it to know what it looks like. It is absolutely not cheating to draw from reference photos. If you're completely copying another artist's painting, that's a different story. That's like replicating someone's work, but looking at a collection of references to base an illustration off of is a totally normal and standard practice that like all professional artists do. In my sketchbook, I do it a little bit more literally with animal sketches. I'll like look at them and try to actually like replicate them, but in my style. But when I'm doing a full illustration like on my iPad or an actual painting, I will have a board of a bunch of photos all over it and look at bits and pieces from each one to piece together my illustration. And also a lot of it comes from my mind. References are really that. It's like something that you refer to assist you. It's not like you're copying it. So it's totally valid to use references. Not that I think anyone watching this doesn't agree with me. It's just like, I always feel like I need to put that disclaimer. And also you can do a mix of references and no references, like this pose down here, I did not use a reference for. I think drawing the one which sitting from reference kind of assisted me with drawing this next one sitting in a different pose. And I was also starting to feel a lot more warmed up, and it's so much easier for me to draw little doodles like this once I'm warmed up. And when I was able to do that little drawing, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel more warmed up. This doesn't feel so stiff anymore. It has some life to it. Because sometimes when you're not warmed up, the problem is that everything is stiff. But once you are warmed up, things have a little bit more movement to them. They just have a lot more life to them, and it sort of feels like you did it more effortlessly. Like, I think the sitting pose above is a little bit stiff and not the best. Like, it was still, I don't know, I wasn't putting too much pressure on myself to be perfect, so I'm not like 100% proud of it. But the one below it, I actually really like this tiny little doodle because it was just like spur of the moment, just like a quick, fast doodle. I love doing like tiny little figure drawings like that, and it's not like perfect, but I actually really like the movement of the pose, and I'm only able to do stuff like that easily once I'm warmed up. So that's sort of how I approach warming up. It really is just a way to tell yourself like it's okay if when I first start drawing it feels a little weird and it feels a little awkward. This is normal. I haven't drawn at all today, so it's normal to be rusty. And if you just stick with it, you'll eventually start to warm up and be able to draw things that look nice to you, and it will become easier to draw things. This next drawing, I doodle it, I think the next day. I think I spread this out over 2 days. So I did a little bit of the witches, and then I flipped the page and drew this little cat. And a quick tip for lightening your sketches is rolling a kneaded eraser on top of it, and it picks up the excess graphite so that it sort of lightens your sketch, and then if you're going to color it, the graphite won't poke through the colors. So that's a nice little quick tip there. I posted this guy on Instagram and people really liked him. I think I was looking at a bunch of different photos of like little animal travelers and tried to take some like bits and pieces from here and there, and then from like ones I've drawn already in the past. And I asked, what color should he be? I think I asked if he should be black, gray, calico, or white or something, but like calico won by a landslide, and I love drawing calico cats, but it's a little bit difficult to like shade them because you add the coloring and then you're like, okay, I need to like put some shadow on here, but like each color is going to be a different color once it's in shadow. And I think I almost approached the danger zone of overworking this guy. But it was just so much fun doing this drawing. Like, it felt like a breath of fresh air because the witches weren't really like turning out that well, and I wasn't really like putting my all into them. It was just like, I was just like drawing for the sake of just like, I just feel like doodling some stuff. But this little cat actually felt really nice to draw. I think I just love drawing animals. I can't help it. I just love drawing animals. People are fun to draw too, but they're just so tricky, and animals, I just love animals so much. I've been seeing a lot of videos on TikTok of these like trail cameras, so it's kind of like a security camera but in nature, and then it shows like clips of animals just like playing or like walking through water, or just like wolves howling at night, and just like I just love those videos. I just think animals are so cool. So I love drawing them as little characters and like personifying them and making them go on adventures. So this was a lot of fun to draw. It's like one of my favorite tropes. I have so many drawings of like animal travelers, and it's like one of my go-to things, but I'm not sorry about it. I think it's just so much fun to draw them. And I use a lot of different media on this one. I did graphite pencil, I used the kneaded eraser to lighten the sketch, I used my watercolors as the base color, and then I took some pencil crayons, added the details here and there. I used some acrylic markers to like bring out certain details. I used my wax pastels, and I think that's pretty much it. And it was a lot of fun, and I kind of want to fill the rest of the page in like little animal characters, but I sort of like did some weird wolf sketches below it that didn't really like turn out that well. So it's not gonna be a full page thing, but maybe I'll draw more of these little guys later and try to like come up with some cool characters. I don't know, I just think it's really fun. And I feel like this was possible because I was a little more warmed up and I kind of like had a good idea of what I wanted to draw, and I had like a plan too because I knew I wanted it to be calico. And I would definitely class this higher than like a sketch. It's more of like a colored like illustration. It's like a little mini illustration. It's not just a sketch, but of course there are like sketchy elements to it. It's not perfect. There's some like wonky areas, but it was a lot of fun. And I just really hope this video helped you think about sketching differently and not panic if things don't turn out right away. Give yourself that extra time to warm up and to get like accustomed to drawing for the day, because you're probably a little rusty if you haven't drawn in a while. And that's sort of why using your sketchbook as frequently as you can is beneficial, because you avoid moments like that where you're very rusty and you start to panic because you're like, I forget how to draw. But I really think you just need to give yourself some time, get into the groove, and you might surprise yourself at how easy it becomes once you actually start drawing. Like you sort of slip into your old habits. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was pretty fun to make and to talk about this because it's something I realized. It's sort of like an epiphany that I had that might be obvious to some people, but I feel like it's not that obvious, because if you're an artist, you're probably like expect yourself to always be able to like draw at the drop of a hat, but you really do need to warm up. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to stay tuned for my next shop update, which will be October 25th. I'm gonna have a lot of new products. It's gonna be my biggest update of the year. There's gonna be a shrimp plushie keychain, a bunch of new notepads, well, my first ever notepad designs, phone charms. I'm gonna vlog it too. I'm gonna like film how I prepare everything for this shop update because it's gonna be so big. So I hope you look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.